Okay, welcome back. Now, in the last video, I was actually doing the hero sections for here, and that's when I realized that I hadn't done something in the header. If I open this up to full, go back to my browser, go to, you can see now, so we had all this working, and look, it's fine. But if I go to full screen, we've got this button way up here, so which we didn't do. So that's hard coded. So we need to add that in. So we need to work out a way of adding in that button into the header. So let's go back and minimize this. Just bring this out so I can, there we go. So I'm just going to leave that like that. All right, cool. So it's running off my screen, but hopefully for you, we can now see this button. So how are we going to do this? So if we close all these, we've got the header here. Here's that button here. So this is the dynamic button that we need to change. So how are we going to do that? What I'm thinking is if we go to our field groups, we've got this theme footer, and theme settings has nothing in it just yet. So I'm thinking we'll just put it in the theme settings. So either we create a header section purely just for this button in here, or we add it in the theme settings. We can't add it into the menu item. Actually, you know what we can do? I'll create a menu button here. All right, so that's what we'll do. So we'll go to our functions.php, go up to our menus. I'm going to go up here and go header button. So now, if we refresh this, we create a new menu, and we call this header button. And we'll see we've now got this one set in here. And we can add our link. Oops, add done. And we'll save menu. So actually, we'll call that contact us. What is it on the live site? Get started. Get started. Cool. Get started. Save. So we've got our link in there. So we'll go back to our header, and we already know we do nav menu. So we don't need to. We can do this in the PHP. WP nav menu. We're going to work in an array. Okay. We want theme location to be that header button. Come on, John, type. Header button. We want container. False. What else will we need here? We want the fallback to be false. All that basically. We want the item wraps. Just give us the value. We want depth to be 0. And the reason we want the depth to be 0 is because we only want parent. So don't care if they've got child items. Let's have a look how that looks. So if we refresh, we can see it there, it's there. We want this to be a button. So let's have a think about this. All right, so to output this, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to do another custom walker. So let's go and create, it's going to be a basic custom walker. So let's go and create one. Here we go. Nav walker. Let's just rename that one to Bootstrap Nav walker. And let's create a new one here. We're going to call this button nav walker. So if we look at the Bootstrap one, we'll start with doing that. So we can't access it directly. We've got this extends nav walker. So we can't call it the same. Oh, close. We can't call it the same thing, so we're going to call it simply button walker. You can call it whatever you like. We'll copy that and we'll go back to our header. And we'll do that in here, walker. So we've got our walker in here, like we did up there. All right. So in our nav walker, so we want to do the start level. So this is the opening wrapper. We want the output. If we look at the Bootstrap nav walker, it's probably here. See, there we go. We want that one. We can just copy that. This we'll leave this empty. We want this empty because leave empty to prevent the UL being added. So that'll stop that. The next thing we want to do is the end level. So we'll go back to our nav walker. If we go to, are they using start EL? Where's that? They're not doing an end level. Okay. No, they're not. So we basically want to copy that, duplicate that down. Oops. I'm going to change that to end level, and we've got the same basic output args now to prevent. That's going to stop the closing UL from being added. And now we want to do the same as these guys, the start EL. So we'll just copy that. Do we need everything in there? We need a F on the front of that. Yep. So in here is where we're going to output the actual value for. So this is the start of the element. So we're going to get our output. We're going to add to it our anchor tag, and then we'll just put our closing anchor tag. So this is the actual element. And what else do we need in here? Then obviously we need the value. So we want to add what our title is, if we're using the ACF button. It is, so we want to escape any HTML that's in that, and we want to go, we're in the item, and we want the title. Now, in the ref, we want to go escape URL, and we want to get the item and its URL. Now, this is where we want to add our classes. But we don't want to just add our class. Like there are, if you look at the menu, it's not here, but if we go up to the top here and go up to screen options, you can see we can toggle on classes, and now we can add optional classes. So we also want to include if somebody adds optional classes. So we'll just get our classes. That's because we want each one to be the button. So by default, that's what we want. But let's just say they add custom class names. So we'll get them as well. Class names equals not, let's make sure it's not empty. And we'll get the item classes. So if it's not empty, then we want to implode it. So we're basically converting it from a array to a string. So we want to add a space between each one. Array filter, because the way it saves it in the database will come out as a array. Array classes. Else it's empty. So let's just recap what that does. So this is WordPress functions. Right. So we're creating a variable called class names. If we haven't sent any classes, because they're stored in the database as an array, we're going to then implode them as a spaced string. And if there aren't any, we're just going to return an empty string. So basically, we're getting the arrays, any custom classes from the database, converting to a string or returning an empty string. But we need to output that here, obviously. So we go escape any attributes, and we want to do our class names variable that we just created. All right, so this is a custom walker, and then now we want to do, that's the start. So now we want to do the end URL, end EL. So end element, and we don't need to pass that. We don't pass that ID value across because that's up here. And in here, we want to just leave it empty. Leave empty to prevent the closing li being added. All right. Simply button will end. I'm pretty sure that should be all I need to do. So we've created our class and we're leaving this part empty so we don't have the UL, because that is where it's being added, where the closing UL is added in here. So it's in the output. So we're not echoing out the output here. So it's returning null. Then we're adding our items, our output. And we're going to end EL. So if we go back over here, I'm not sure. Yeah, let's have a look. Let's just save that. Let's go in here and refresh. And boom, there it is, our button. So now we can get rid of the second one. So the only downside to this, right, is obviously I could create another one. So now in this menu item, I've got 2. So that could start to get messy in the if the user adds too many, but I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to now remove that. Then we're going to leave our single button in there. So there we go. We've fixed that up. We've added our button in there. We've also created our own custom nav walker, which is a WordPress functionality. Extends the walker nav and removes all the elements we don't need. So there we go. So I will see you in the next video.